Jason Rigby, self-aware leader. I encourage you guys, if you haven't subscribed to our Substack, if you're a self-aware leader or you're trying to exhibit self-awareness, I know we all fail thousands of times a day. Most of us have 40,000 negative thoughts a day. That's what science tells us. Have something positive in your life. And so I encourage you, sign up for the self-aware leader. The link will be in the show notes here. And I'm just super excited with how quick we're growing. YouTube's growing, everything's growing. So Instagram, I'm mostly on Instagram, YouTube, and then Substack. If you like to read things, I also got the video podcast on there, so it's awesome that way. But today, I want to talk about the leadership divide of discernment versus judgment. When we judge, all of us judge. You know, it's like my life is chaotic, but it's easy, super easy for me to look at somebody else and critique them and judge them. And I think in leadership, a lot of times we have this sneaky trap. And judgment masquerades as confidence. It looks like it's decisiveness and authority. But let's be real. Judgment doesn't build teams, it breaks them down. It doesn't solve problems, it compounds them. And it doesn't make you a better leader. It actually keeps you stuck. And so if you're a leader, especially if you're in that middle management, in between, I have a lot of young leaders that listen to this podcast, you know you found yourself. You've been caught between the weight of all the expectations from the above CEO, the vice presidents, those bosses, and then the demands of your team below. And we always get this above and below. Great station on YouTube. A little side note, if you like that type of music, it's called Above and Below. But above, we have you here above those C-suite, and then below that team. And that's when things get messy. And so the easiest thing for you to do is to make judgment. That becomes the default. But judgment isn't leadership. Discernment is. And there's a huge critical difference between the two. And that's what I want to explain today. So what is judgment? It's a reactive mindset. So what is discernment? It's an empowered approach. It's proactive. Discernment is intentional. It's the ability to evaluate situations and people with clarity and wisdom. It's reflective. It's not reactive. Discernment asks, like, what's the root cause of this issue? What strengths can this team member bring to the table? How can I adapt this plan to achieve better results? And I think if you ask those questions, those discerning questions, and one of them that I use all the time is the first one. In case you didn't pay attention to the three, this one's the most important. What's the root cause of this issue? Before I freak out, before I get angry, before I get mad, before I get hurt, before I run somewhere and go cry, whatever it is, what's the root cause of this issue? Why did this person blow up at me? Why did this person threaten to quit? Why did I get this horrible email in the middle of the night and I couldn't sleep after that? When you can find out the root cause, then you're allowed to be able to use the tool of discernment. And discernment doesn't tear down, it builds. It doesn't, when it's receiving this information, it doesn't alienate, it connects. And discernment transforms challenges into opportunities. It turns conflict into growth. So what is the root of leadership judgment? Why do leaders fall into judgment? And I think a lot of times it's this illusion of control. When your responsibilities feel overwhelming, judgment offers authority, what you think is authority, but it's a trap. And I'm going to explain it here why. It's a projection of stress. When you see somebody being kind of angry and judgmental, usually you can be like, no, stay away from them. They're stressed. Judgment often reflects unresolved stress. And I think a lot of times judgment, since it's fear-based, then it shows insecurity. If you feel unsupported by upper management or overwhelmed by the team and what's going on with them, judgment is a way to offload that pressure. But it doesn't fix the problem, guys. It magnifies it. It distracts from solutions. Judgment focuses on assigning blame, not finding solutions. When you label a team member as lazy Or you say everything that my boss gives me in my time frames and when he wants these projects done, it's all unrealistic. What happens is you close yourself off to this very important, and I believe spiritually it comes from the higher self. You close yourself off to a creative problem solve. In that moment of you closing and restricting, it doesn't allow abundance and expansion. And so what's the solution? You're not going to find it because you're in such a reactive mindset. And then number 3, it erodes trust. Judgment isolates you. Your team feels criticized instead of supported. Your boss senses resistant instead of you aligning with him or her. Trust is the currency of leadership. And judgment, what does it do? It spins it like spending in a bank. It takes these $100 bills, these trust bills, and spins it recklessly. So why does discernment matter? And I think a lot of you in the unique position that you're in as a leader, you're trying. And so I want you to focus on discernment and what that looks like. And I want to be very specific so that you can understand it. Discernment is the bridge between the strategic vision of what you have as a company or your boss, and then the operational realities of your team. And we know judgment severs the bridge, it blows the bridge up. But discernment strengthens it. And whether you're in upward leadership, whether you're the middle guy, I want you to understand something. And like I said before, I have a lot of young leaders listening to this. I want you to understand your boss isn't perfect. In fact, no one is. You aren't either. They may hand down directives. They may have time frames that are unrealistic. And they may seem disconnected from what I really have to do in the day-to-day responsibilities of my team. We've all heard that. Judgment will tell you, it'll whisper with fear in your ear that they don't get it. But discernment will say, how can I translate their vision into actionable steps? How can I translate my vision for what I want for the team into actionable steps? Leaders who practice discernment manage up effectively. They clarify expectations. They offer constructive feedback, and they align their boss's goals with their team's capabilities. Such a key function there. It's very rare that you'll see a leader, and I've talked to thousands of leaders. It's very rare that you'll see a leader that has this ability to be able to take the alignment of what the board wants and then turn around and transfer that clearly, I'll say this, with clarity, like that vision, and then allowing the team to be able to take ownership of it and then carry it out. That is so rare. Most of the time it's done through memos or emails or threats or passive aggressiveness just to get something halfway done. If it's done at 60%, okay, we got it done, now we can move on. That's not the way it works, guys. Your team looks to you for guidance. They want support from you. They need advocacy. Judgment says that your team is not motivated, but discernment asks this: what's blocking their performance and how can I help them succeed? And discernment will enable you to see beyond the surface level issue and allow you to foster a culture of accountability and collaboration. You're like, Jason, that sounds like a perfect world. How does that happen? By you allowing them to be open and creative. If you're feeling not stressed, if you're relaxed, if you're feeling amazing, guess what's going to happen? The team around you is going to feel amazing. That's what I always say, work on you first. Almost every video I talk to leaders. Leaders are eating fast food. They look shitty. They're not taking care of their clothes. They don't feel good when they put their clothes on. They have a shitty car. And I'm not saying you have to go out and buy the most, Lamborghini or whatever, but have nice things around you. You don't have to have a lot. You can have a nice Toyota Camry. Like I said, it doesn't have to be a BMW or Mercedes. If you can afford that, get that. Feel good. Listen to music. Get yourself pumped up. Stop having sloppy clothes, all of those things. It doesn't create a culture of accountability and collaboration. So how do we break the cycle of judgment? Well, if you find yourself judging your team, judging judging, if you're that middle management, judging your boss, it's time to pause and recalibrate. And here's how we're going to do it. Number one, we're going to recognize the pattern. We know judgment stems from frustration or fear. So when you feel the urge to judge, ask yourself, listen, guys, what am I avoiding? Maybe it's a tough conversation you need to have. Maybe it's a risky decision that you don't want to make. Maybe you need to be vulnerable to a team member. If you can identify the root cause, it'll help you shift from judgment to discernment. So number one is recognize the pattern. Number two is own your role. Leadership isn't about pointing fingers. It's about taking responsibility. Stop blaming other people when people come to you with a problem. I see this all the time. Well, if it wasn't for Susan and her team, if it wasn't for this guy, stop making yourself the victim. That's not leadership. You're acting like any other employee. If you have a boss and its expectations feel unreasonable, have you communicated the constraints that your team's facing to her? If a team member is underperforming, have you set them down and did a great coaching session and then provided clear guidance and support? Found out where they're at? Maybe they're going through a divorce. You don't know what's going on. Most of the time, it's shocking. I'll have people come to me and be like, well, what? You know everything, Jason. So what's going on here? What's going on there? It's because I do coaching and people open up. If they feel it's a loving environment, they're going to open and be honest. If they're not going to get slammed for being transparent, guess what's going to happen? They're going to share with you. And then it'll allow you to be able to be a leader and help them, give them support. Maybe it's them taking the week off. Maybe it's them needing to refocus and do a project where that would invigorate them. Have them do something else. Maybe it's switching team members, whatever it may be. How can you adapt and how can you achieve it? And that's the third one is get curious, not critical. The next time you're tempted to judge, get curious. Don't label the team members as lazy. Ask what's causing their disengagement. Instead of dismissing a directive as being unrealistic, explore what's the bigger goal here. Curiosity will always lead to solutions. Criticism will always lead to dead ends. Number 4, build bridges, not barriers. Judgment isolates, discernment connects. As a middle manager, as a CEO, as a small business owner, you're the bridge between the two worlds. Strengthen that bridge by practice active listening, offering constructive feedback. That's all coaching, by the way, guys, and fostering collaboration. Get into coaching. If you need to know about coaching and how to do coaching, selfawareleader.com. You could go to the website, my website, and sign up for that. And I'd be more than happy to train you with that. Build bridges, not barriers. And then number 5, lead with compassion. Leadership, you're dealing with humans. Your boss is human. Your team is human. You're human. Compassion is the antidote to judgment. It's what heals it. It allows you, if you wrap compassion around something, it allows you to see the challenge clearly. It allows you to look positively for an opportunity for growth. If you judge, then you're going to look at it as a threat to your authority and you have to eliminate the threat, right? So what are the practical tools for discernment? I'm going to go through these quickly, guys. I don't want to keep you too long. Practical tools for discernment. Number 1, set clear goals. You're like, you say this all the time, Jason. Set clear goals, set clear goals. Ambiguity breeds judgment. Clarify expectations. Clarify them with your team members. Set measurable objectives for your whole team. When everyone knows the why behind the work, judgment can dissipate. Number 2, develop emotional agility. Emotional reactions often drive judgment. If you need to practice mindfulness for 5 minutes, journaling, you need to go for a walk in the afternoon, whatever it may be, how do you process your emotion, do an affirmation, whatever it is, before you react? You need to create that space to allow discernment to come in, the higher self, the wisdom to come in. And then number 3, seek feedback. Discernment thrives on perspective. Regularly seek feedback from your team members, from whoever it may be that you feel can help you get a different perspective. Their insights, those insights, especially new insights from a whole different angle, it'll help you navigate challenges. And when you can see this new insight and then you have the compassion that we talked about earlier, you're going to see it with wisdom and empathy. And that's going to open abundance for you, huge. Number 4, focus on strengths. Judgment fixates on flaws. Discernment amplifies strengths. Shift your mindset to identify what each team member brings to the table. No. What's their strengths? And then allow them to work 80% of the time in those strengths. Clear up their schedule. Go over their schedule with them and say, hey, I know 3 days a week you work at home and 2 days you come into the office, or 5 days you're in the office, whatever it may be. I want to help you to focus on your strengths. So let's see what that looks like. Number one, what are your strengths? You should know you should know each of your employees exactly. Have them take the test and then run those tests in ChatGPT. You can ask ChatGPT, hey, here's my whole team. Here's all their PDFs of the tests that they took. Whatever, DISC test, or, there's so many, Briggs-Meyer, there's so many tests that are out there. I like, the real simple one that I like is the 4 temperaments, where it's really, really simple. There's sanguine, choleric, there's 4 of them, a phlegmatic, all of those. And it's really easy for people to grasp. But it's a simple test. You can do it for free. Then you could download it, which each person is. And then you can ask ChatGPT, you're an expert in, the 4 temperaments. Here's my teams and here's each of them. How can I lead them better? How can I handle this? How can I have a conversation? How should I coach with this person? You'll be shocked at the things that it's going to tell you. Focus on their strengths. And I'm going to close on this. Judgment may feel like control, but it's not. It's fear dressed up as authority. Discernment, on the other hand, is real leadership. It's the ability to navigate complexity with not just clarity, but the beautiful part, and this is where people are going to really respond to you as a leader, with empathy. And then when you wrap clarity and empathy with purpose, that's a leader. Your job isn't to criticize. It's to empower. Wouldn't you think, as a self-aware leader? Your job isn't to assign blame. As a self-aware leader, it's to inspire. It's to create solutions. Your job isn't to create conflict. As a self-aware leader, it's to build bridges. So whether you're working with your team, you're having to manage up to your boss, discernment, I guarantee you, will transfer your leadership. It's going to strengthen trust. It'll foster collaboration with your team. And it will 100% drive meaningful results. So the next time you catch yourself judging, guys, that's what I want you to do. Pause, walk away, breathe, and say to yourself, I choose discernment instead. That's the choice that great leaders make. That's the choice that's going to elevate you and all those little humans that you love and everyone around you.